Hello everybody, welcome back to Max Reviews. And I just got finished watching the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. I gotta say, that this episode blew my mind. Let's just dive in. This is Max Reviews. I'm Brayden. And I gotta say, this is the best episode by far. This is top level. I absolutely loved everything that they did in this episode. Rising the stakes, introducing so many interesting cameos, new characters, and also setting up so much stuff. The only bad thing that I could say about this episode is that this is called the Book of Boba Fett. And this is the second episode in a row where Boba Fett is non-existent, almost. He has one scene where he's like, hey, Mando. In the entire episode. That is frustrating for me. That's just frustrating. That Boba Fett is not in his own show. So, it's called the Book of Boba Fett. Boba Fett's not really in this that much. He's in one scene in the past two episodes, which is jarring. It 100% changes the entire vibe of the show and everything, almost at the vibe, to give us these two amazing episodes, and this one I think was just so good. To dive into the actual plot, spoilers here, we start with Cobb Vanth, the marshal from the first episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. He runs into these pikes, and then he's like, hey, get out of here, and we'll just call it free, leave the spice behind, and he shoots three of them. One of them goes behind, and he's like, you can't go through Freetown, okay? That's the new name of the place, and so he lets the spice go, and then he just lets this pike go and tell his bosses, like, don't mess with Freetown. And so that was a great opening, because I was hoping we'd have something like this where we get a bunch of bounty hunters and a big shootout sort of thing. And that's what this episode was, and I loved it so much. But right after that, we go to the Mandalorian, Mando, and he goes to visit Grogu, where he's just immediately, he's greeted by R2-D2, and I'm like, whoa, I did not think that they'd be doing this. We see R2-D2, and then he's just sitting there while they're making the Jedi Temple thing that was in Last Jedi. So this is sort of connecting a bit. So I'm liking that, and then we see Luke Skywalker again, and this I was 100% not expecting to actually see Luke Skywalker and Grogu training, and it takes up like 15-20 minutes of this entire episode. Like almost half of the episode is him training Grogu, which is what I wanted to see, but not exactly in the Book of Boba Fett. This was the least likely place I thought I'd find this. And then he's just training with Grogu, and then you get to see him do a bunch of stuff with using the Force, talking about it, and the CGI Luke, I did not expect to see CGI Luke again after this, ever. And they show him, and it's like, wow. They're going all in. I can't wait to see what happens next with Grogu. When you see End of the Mandalorian, now you get to see what's actually happening with Grogu. And so, just big surprise here. Another humongous surprise. Ahsoka is on the same planet, and she greets Mando and talks to him about Grogu and how Luke will train him, but she won't. And he gives her the armor that the armor made for him, and says, because he wants to see Grogu, but he understands that Grogu's got to become a Jedi. And so he gives her the armor to give to him, and she's like, okay. And that, I did not expect to see Ahsoka in this episode. That was another humongous surprise, but there's even one more. One after the other, this episode keeps surprising me. I really love this episode so much. And so, while the Mando's going to Tatooine, Luke and Ahsoka are just watching while Grogu is dodging shots from this training remote thing that Luke gave him to do, and he's jumping. It's sort of weird to see Grogu jumping and stuff like Yoda, but I guess it's fine. And then they sort of say, she's like, okay, I gotta leave now. And so I'm like, okay, that was a nice little cameo to get us, like, remind us, yeah, Ahsoka's here. And then she's like, your father, you're just sort of so much like your father. And that That is interesting. Maybe we'll be seeing more of that. Like Luke, CGI Luke in Mandalorian, he didn't even have a line. He didn't have any stuff going on with him, but it was just really cool to see him. Now, he's like an actual character. He's actually doing something, and you see him do stuff, and it's like, wow. I can't believe they put this much money and this much stuff into this episode. And so, at Fest Palace, the place where Boba Fett is, our main character, we see him for one scene. He's like, hey, Mando. This is Mando. And Mando's like, okay, I think I know how to get some troops. And so he goes to where Cobb Vanth is in the new Freetown place or whatever, and he's got a deputy. And I don't know for sure. I think the deputy is played by the guy that's in Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know for sure. I'm just trying to make this quick. And so he goes and he visits the guy, and he's like, I need a favor for that. And the guy's like, I'll consider. Get everybody together, he says after Mando leaves. And then somebody's walking through the desert. And I just experienced this like 10 minutes ago. And I was just sitting on the couch. My sister was there, and she was sort of leaving, and she's like, who is it? I'm like, I hope it's Cad Bane. And then she's like, okay. I'm like, I don't think it's... And then it moves up, and I'm like, what? It's freaking Cad Bane. He's there. And it's just like, boom, explosion. It's Cad Bane in live action. It's just insane and amazing, and it just blew my mind on so many levels. I love Cad Bane in the Clone Wars. He's one of the coolest and just such a great character that I wanted to show up in the show. I didn't actually think, and he just has the most epic opening to a character ever. He walks up from the thing, the Cobb Vanth, he's like, okay, everybody, get inside. And then the deputy's like, oh, is it going to be okay? He's like, I got this. And so Cad Bane comes up, and you don't even see his eyes. You see him, and it's like, oh, it's Cad Bane. Yes! I've been rewatching Clone Wars, and he is, I would say, other than Ahsoka, the best character that Clone Wars has introduced. I love him so much, and such a great character. And they went the mile, and he is like, Boba Fett is a murderer for the Empire, and he's like, you guys just leave. Spice is going to be going through it, and there won't be any problems. And so the deputy is there, and he draws his gun. Cad Bane shoots Cobb Vanth, this guy from The Mandalorian. He shoots the deputy and 100% kills the deputy, then says, there won't be any problems if you do this, and then he walks off. That is the coolest introduction. I just like, yes! So, yes. I was just, yes. So much, just such a great introduction to Cad Bane, and wow, absolutely loved it. And he's working with the Pikes, so we're gonna see more of them. And so, 2 Pikes go into the sanctuary where the Twek lady was, and blow up the thing. And then Skywalker, we end with Luke Skywalker giving Grogu the Mando's gift, which is armor for him, where he'll become a Mandalorian, a foundling, baby Mandalorian, or he could have Master Yoda's lightsaber and become a Jedi. And we end with Grogu just deciding. And man, this episode, I love this episode because it balanced having Luke and Ahsoka and Grogu and Mando, and having this Cad Bane, Cobb Vanth, and Mando. I was hoping that they'd be able to add Boba Fett in the mix because he's the main character and get to see him actually do something. But he doesn't do anything for these past 2 episodes. He has legitimately said one line in these past 2 episodes in his own show, and that is just, I'm torn. I love these episodes. These are the 2 best episodes in the entire show, but they do not have Boba Fett on. What are they doing? It's so frustrating for me. And I'm more interested in what's going on with Grogu, Mando, more with Cobb Vanth and Cad Bane than I am with Boba Fett, which is frustrating. So I am frustrated with this show, but I love it. Well, I love these 2 episodes. The show overall, it's extremely mixed for me because they have not picked up on Boba Fett since episode 4. Yeah, they haven't picked up on since episode 4. So we have one more episode. I just hope it's like an hour long and we get to see a bunch of stuff happen. And I hope it's good. It could be the best, easily. Because this was the best, but I'm just I love this episode. Mixed on the show. Braden out.